Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I'm excited to host this webinar series today, or this webinar today. I'm Bryce Kennedy, Executive Director of Space Valley Foundation, and I'll be the moderator. We're here to talk about MaxQ, a 70-acre innovation district in Albuquerque that's quickly becoming a launchpad for hard tech companies. If you're a founder, an operator, a developer looking for scalable space, proximity to national labs, or just a strategic edge, this is the conversation worth tuning into. Today's panel brings together the people that are shaping MaxQ and the ecosystem around it. We have Kevin Yearout and Dale Decker, the developers leading MaxQ transformation from vision to reality. We have Melinda Allen, President and CEO of New Mexico Partnership, here to talk about business incentives and state-level support. We have DeRaad, CEO of NewSpace Nexus, who spent her career building up the region's capacity to support space and dual-use companies. And we're hoping that Sherman McCorkle, Vice Chair of Kirtland Partnership Committee and Chairman and CEO of Sandia Science and Technology Park Development Corporation, will join us as well. So our goal today is to give you a clear picture of what's happening on the ground, who's already betting on New Mexico, and how MaxQ fits into a much larger and fast-growing hard tech ecosystem. With that, let's just jump right into the questions. Dale, you are first up. So what is MaxQ, and how did this project come about?
Well, first off, thanks, Bryce, for doing this today, and Roxanne with Riot Mind for putting this together. You kind of laid it out there. It's a 70-acre mixed-use development. It's an enhanced use lease whereby the Air Force declares property that is not mission critical, that can be put into a long-term lease with a commercial developer such as ourselves, TKD, Thunderbird Kirtland Development. And our goal is to develop this property, of which we have 22 acres already shovel-ready with utilities. And what we learned during this whole process, it started in 2016 with an RFP from the Air Force for commercial developers. In 2017, TKD was awarded the right to negotiate the long-term lease for the 70 acres. And then in 2018, we finally had a lease in place and started marketing the property and getting it ready for development to move forward. Just real quickly, the site is located in the south part of Albuquerque. We have a common boundary of our 70 acres with the Air Force Research Lab, which is on the west side of Kirtland Air Force Base. It is the Space Directorate as well as the Directed Energy Directorate for the Air Force. So it's got all of its R&D components right here in Albuquerque. And that's really what we're excited about, is the adjacency to the Air Force Research Lab and all of the great things that are happening in space, and now directed energy relative to where our country is headed on a defense-related note, but also from a technology enhancement of space and directed energy. I might also mention that any kind of proceeds that are generated by the enhanced use lease go directly back to Kirtland Air Force Base and are supposed to be utilized for quality of life projects on the base, which again further makes Kirtland Air Force Base a desirable place for missions to be located and for work to occur in the national interest. So that's kind of the high, big overview. Again, TKD is the leaseholder, and we named our development MaxQ. Kevin Yearout is the general manager for TKD, and it's a partnership between Kevin Yearout Properties and Decker, the architecture planning firm. So, and we have Rick Davis also as our vertical developer partner. So we've got a great team in Albuquerque and great relationships with all the economic development organizations, and are really excited about it.
Perfect. I think that tees up the next question here. Speaking about economic development, Melinda, MaxQ is one piece of a much larger story about innovation in New Mexico. For folks new to the state, how do you describe what makes this region different for business attraction and growth, say from other regions close by that they might be looking at or scoping out?
Absolutely. And let's really talk about what New Mexico is at the heart. We are a state of innovators and disruptors. If there is an opportunity for us to support and create new technologies, advance an industry to go forward, or to do something new and different, test, research, etc., that's at the heart of what New Mexico is. And that really comes into place when you're talking about the aerospace industry. We have a long history in aerospace. This is not a new industry for New Mexico. We are already a hub for aviation and space and aerospace type of programs, whether it's on the research and development side, whether it's on the manufacturing side. There is such a large ecosystem of support and industries and programs and networking and everything that a business needs to be successful, to not only try something new and different, but to serve an existing industry, to partner with existing industry, to partner with federal labs and research. Everything that you need in this industry is here in the state of New Mexico. So when we are talking about what does it mean to look at New Mexico, what does it mean to do business in New Mexico, it is coming in to a state where you are going to have the supports in place, you're going to have the industry in place, you're going to be a part of a group that is willing to work together and to move your industry forward. You don't have to break new ground and bring a brand new industry to New Mexico, especially in aerospace, because it's already here. So you're going to find all of that talent, those education systems, the industry there to support your needs. And then the state has really worked to be as business friendly as we can. Yes, we have to regulate safety for our employees and safety of the environment, but otherwise we want to get out of the way and make sure business can do business. And so we've created different programs and assistance that we can talk about later, but everything is designed to help business come and be successful. And yes, we're talking about aerospace today, but it really goes across all the industry sectors in New Mexico. And for those who may not be as familiar, we have a very rich history in energy across all forms, in aerospace, in manufacturing to support all of those industries, in film, in half a dozen other industry sectors that are well established, are growing, are very accessible. So there is opportunities for success for a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, and especially in the aerospace industry.
I really like what you said. People don't realize, and they should, from the Oppenheimer days to the growth of Los Alamos to Sandia to our 3 NASA sites to all these different things, spaceport. It is a land of innovators and disruptors. Every time I talk to someone who comes here, it's a different angle that people want to come here, say, as opposed to Los Angeles, or Colorado, or Florida. It's because they want impact. They want to be able to test. They want to be able to innovate. They want to be able to move fast. They want to be agile. And New Mexico continues to offer that. And that's what excites me about MaxQ. It's a perfect example of you have some structure that already exists, like Kirtland Air Force Base. How do we make it even better? How do we start bridging this gap? And Dale and Kevin, we're able to put that together and consistently push the envelope with that, as well as you, Melinda, with what you're doing, and Casey and everyone else. Well, Sherman, good to see you here. I have a question teed up for you. I think this goes perfectly to aligning exactly what is Kirtland and how does this work. So Sherman, you worked for decades to strengthen the relationship between the region and Kirtland Air Force Base. For those who may not be familiar, can you speak to the strategic importance of Kirtland, not just for the military, but for innovation, the local economy, and projects like MaxQ?
Yes, I'm happy to. Every military base in America essentially has one mission. On Kirtland Air Force Base, there are 107 distinctly different missions. Most of them are science-based. 3 deltas from the U.S. Space Force exist on Kirtland. 3 directorates of the Air Force Research Laboratory exist on Kirtland. This attraction does not exist in any of the other 49 states. It is that unusual. Each of the Space Force deltas and each of the Air Force Research Lab directorates use civilian contractors. Because they are science-based, they frequently need masters and PhDs. And by and large, you do not find those people in uniform. Therefore, they hire contractors. They prefer contractors to be very close to Kirtland Air Force Base. Nothing is closer to Kirtland than MaxQ. It, in fact, adjoins Kirtland. So the uniqueness is absolute, and it provides the opportunity for any type of contractor, any type of firm that looks to do technology-based research, an opportunity to locate next to the Air Force entity or the Space Force entity with whom they are contracting.
Fantastic. Thank you. You know, it brings up the point that I think a lot of people on the ground in New Mexico talk about is the access. It's unparalleled. It's to have that level of access to this caliber of people and organizations. I'm just like you said, Sherman. It's no other state can offer that. And with regards to that access, Dale, MaxQ sits just, as we've talked about, minutes from AFRL, Sandia, National Labs, and the airport. How does that proximity influence your development strategy, especially for companies building in space, aerospace, and directed energy?
Yeah, and Sherman really touched on it. You know, in this case, proximity and adjacency to the Air Force Research Lab is everything, and really is driving our development approach, consistent with the New Mexico Partnership, Albuquerque Regional Economic Alliance. And, you know, we have a common boundary for our 70 acres. We are right there where contractors, as Sherman mentioned, like to be, who are doing business with the Air Force Research Lab, as well as Sandia National Labs and Kirtland Air Force Base in general. Those contractors, we call them primarily captive government contractors, you know, have a real benefit to be able to utilize some of the unique research and development facilities that are inside the fence, so to speak, that are not available elsewhere in the United States through CRADAs. And we talk about proximity really on the south side of Albuquerque along the Gibson Boulevard. It really provides a link to all of these major R&D centers, including the Sandia Science and Technology Park on the east end, Sandia National Labs, which is doing all sorts of work relative to the nuclear stockpile engineering, quantum computing, intelligent and advanced manufacturing, to the NNSA, which has a major facility here. DOE does as well. To Kirtland Air Force Base, which, as Sherman mentioned, is not just a singleton kind of base. It's got multiple missions. And to the Air Force Research Lab. And I think one thing that when we just say Air Force Research Lab, we kind of put it in two big buckets around the directed energy directorate for the Air Force, lasers, and optics and photonics and space vehicles, where they do have, again, some very unique testing facilities that could be accessible through CRADAs to anybody that does locate at our MaxQ. But also, I wanted to mention that there's the Space Rapid Capabilities Office, which is adjacent to the Air Force Research Lab. There's also the Space and Missile Systems Center of Excellence, which is located at the AFRL. And then there's the Joint Navigation Warfare Center, which is also part of the Space Force and is going to be in support of Delta 11 of the Space Force, which has been identified as a tenant for the Air Force Research Lab. So if it's about space, if it's about directed energy in the United States, if it's about the engineering capabilities that Sandia National Labs brings and the partnerships that can be created, MaxQ is right there at the center of everything. And, in addition, the University of New Mexico Science and Technology Park is flourishing, as well as I mentioned previously, Sandia Science and Tech Park. So it's the technology corridor around space, innovation, entrepreneurship in those emerging technologies and maturing technologies are right here in Albuquerque, and you've got sites that can accommodate them, and we love to work with them.
Perfect. Thank you. Casey, you have worked, you've been in this ecosystem. You've been like Kirtland, AFRL, everything. So you know the system well. And really built this from the ground up. So you have worked with the startups in scaling into dual use markets. What kind of companies are most likely to benefit from being near MaxQ and near all of these federal partners?
Well, so what we've really been looking in, even back in my days at the Air Force Research Lab, working with a lot of the companies that want to get close to these Space Force organizations, the Sandia, Los Alamos. There's lots of funding and support for these innovators from all of the assets that we have here in New Mexico that, Dale has already shared, and Melinda and Sherman. But if you look at it's this commercial space industry, this private kind of commercial growth that has happened. There's many types of innovators that are ready to come and be close to these organizations. We work with, small companies, startups, even universities that have tech that, come into where they have a concept, and then it, gets pulled in through some of our accelerators, small business innovation research, SpaceWorks. If you look at in 2010, the global space market was mainly government funded, government funds. And you look at now, that was probably about 50 billion per year. And you look at it now, it's like 600 billion, and it's to keep growing. And that is this new commercial innovators. And for the government side, they're really trying to change the way they buy systems. And so they want to take advantage of these, thinking out of the box, new innovators, they call them, sort of non-traditional. So both sides of this equation, the government side is really trying to work more with these innovators. And then the innovators are trying to get to a lot of this government dollars because it's like a way that they can get started. So with MaxQ being next to, the Air Force, the three Space Force organizations, Air Force Research Laboratories, Space Systems Command, Space Rapid Capabilities Office, like Dale said, the Delta 11 is coming, even the Air Force Nuclear Weapons Center, the whole national security space complex is here. This is a great place for companies to get set up here and be able to get kind of that start to get their concepts into products and to get eventual more investments. So it's a prime location. There's many other aerospace companies in the area, and with the airport nearby, it's sort of this aerospace aviation corridor, and it's really a great place for companies to come, set up, be with other innovators, and then have the support and have these funding sources for them.
I'm just thinking, so Casey puts on, for those who don't know, a fantastic event, very influential. It's called State of the Space Industrial Base. And that, with MaxQ, as people are starting to hear what doing here is this whole ecosystem exists, and the more we start pulling in and collaborating, more people can understand how this fits in. You'll see just exactly where you fit yourself. Real quick, a list of resources can be found, regional resources at the MaxQ website, which is maxqnm.com. Take a look at that. It's very robust. Okay, Kevin or Dale, can you share what types of tenants or industries are already moving in and what's available now?
Great. Well, what we have available now is 22 acres shovel ready with utilities. One of the benefits of the enhanced use lease arrangement with the Air Force is our land use is dictated by the Air Force through our agreement. Building permits go through the county of Bernalillo. So we're quick to market and fast to respond. And I think that's something that's very unique about MaxQ in our region and something that we can offer to potential users. Again, we're starting to see a lot of activity just recently as the world turns and the world changes. In the Department of Defense bill for funding this year was $25 billion to start to stand up the Golden Dome. And if you look at the Golden Dome, it is going to rely heavily on optics, photonics, and lasers, which again, the Air Force plays a huge role in that, and space vehicles. So I think we're going to start to see large and some of those smaller, quick to market, quick to innovation companies really looking at New Mexico. One other thing I think we have to mention at MaxQ is we're really blessed in that all of the economic development organizations are really aligned on this whole cluster around aerospace and directed energy and attracting those high-paying, high-wage jobs to New Mexico and taking advantage of the infrastructure that's in place that is not replicated anywhere else in the world relative to unique partnerships that can be formed, but also unique testing facilities and access to some of the smartest people in this space in the United States, if not the world. So those are all those great assets that we can bring to bear. And, we stand ready to respond to any and all requests. And again, speed to market, I think, is something that the world is moving towards. Casey mentioned that. The old days of spending 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years to get new technology introduced into the world that the Department of Defense is used to just is not going to work. Real quickly, we are starting and breaking ground on 12,000 square feet of retail. That's one thing we did hear from the users at the Air Force Research Lab on that west side of the base is there are no amenities. So it'll be a mixture of restaurants and support services. Kirtland Federal Credit Union has started in construction as well along the way on their main branch, which is going to be an anchor there at Maxwell and Gibson. We're putting in infrastructure improvements at that intersection to provide good access to our site. Security fences are in place and developing good working relationships with the Air Force security forces relative to how MaxQ interfaces with the Air Force Research Lab. So we're way down the road. Clearly, the Kirtland Partnership has played a huge role in helping to promote MaxQ, Albuquerque Regional Economic Alliance, the city of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, State Economic Development Department, Melinda's organization, the Mexico Partnership. We're on everybody's radar screen, and we're quick to respond and can get things done quickly. So that's one of the real benefits that MaxQ has to offer over the competition. But again, that whole Gibson corridor is really shaping up to be a space and directed energy innovation corridor, and it's something that's unique in the world, really, where all of these assets and exist concurrently.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't find a better time for this existence. Sherman.
Let me add, we talk about the Space Force and the Air Force missions, the research that occurs on Kirtland. but those units are not static. Over the last 10 to 12 years, their budgets have grown substantially. Their contracting budgets have grown. Their number of personnel located on Kirtland Air Force Base has grown. And if you look, Dale mentioned the Golden Dome, but it's not just the Golden Dome. It is anything having to do with space, period. And that budget is the fastest growing part of the Department of Defense budget. And much of that budget will be directed toward civilian contractors.
And Bryce, I might point out as well, just so everybody's clear, we are outside the security perimeter of Kirtland Air Force Base. So we are actually a private development with no access issues. But because of our adjacency, we operate footsteps away from the tenants at Kirtland Air Force Base, just so everybody's clear that we're not behind the fence, we are outside the fence.
Right. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Melinda, and then I'll follow on with Casey for this. So for companies considering getting into the weeds a little bit more here, a move, what incentives or support does New Mexico partnership provide, and how hands-on is that support? And then whatever Melinda covers, Casey, I'd be curious to see from your angle too what you've heard and seen. Here's.
Absolutely. So incentives, when you're talking about grants, job training money, tax credit, etc., is the icing on the cake, right? That's the icing of the incentives, and we have all of those programs. We have reimbursable grants for building line infrastructure improvements. In some cases, lease payments. We have one of the top nationally ranked job training incentive programs in the U.S. here in New Mexico, and we can offer between 50 and 75% of wages back to the employer for up to 6 months. Every time you hire a new employer, we have tax credits that are refundable or carry forward. We have ways to abate the taxes we currently have. If you are doing research and development, we have research and development tax credits that also include personnel costs. So there's a very robust set of incentives that we can help companies get. So part of what the New Mexico Partnership is set up for is to help any company that is looking to come into New Mexico to find out everything that they need to know, to do an incentive analysis so you know what that is going to look like monetarily. We are a nonprofit. This is our mission, is to help companies. All of our services are free and confidential, and we think of us basically as the biggest middleman in New Mexico. We are going to connect you to everyone that you need, to all of the programs, all of the services that you need in order to be successful in New Mexico. I mentioned incentives are the icing on the cake, but it's the cake, right, that is really what is important for businesses who want to come into New Mexico. It has to make business sense for your company. And when you are talking about the aerospace industry, it makes sense in New Mexico. When you look at your cost of operations compared to coastal partners or others in the region, you're going to have a lower cost of operation in New Mexico. Your access to talent is unparalleled because of the resources that we've mentioned and the companies and the programs that are here. Access to that talent you won't be able to find anywhere else. The logistics of getting your people, your products, your supply chain in and out of New Mexico is unparalleled. You can reach 75% of the U.S. population within 2 days. We have almost 30 direct flights nationally to get to any market that you need to out of Albuquerque. We have 3 interstates that will get you coast to coast or from Mexico to Canada, and multiple rail lines that serve the area as well. So whether you're talking about your business operations, you're going to be able to do that here successfully. If you are talking about ecosystem support and being in the industry, you're going to find that in New Mexico. If you need networking assistance or programs on how to tap into how do I become a government supplier, we have those programs and this assistance is already in place. There are so many things to take advantage of when you come into New Mexico, and the partnership is really there to hold your hand. However tightly or loosely you want us to hold that, we can walk through that process with you as fast or as slow as you need to go in order to make the right decision to locate in New Mexico and get your business started here.
All right. Do you want me to draft off of that? That was great,
Sure, that'd be
Melinda.
great.
Yes. And so the specific support to the aerospace system, we have a number of partners that have put together programming, and it's supported with the Air Force Research Lab, building this ecosystem. I know, NewSpace Nexus has an incubator support. We have a Launchpad that allows for open prototyping, companies to come in. Nearby, there's a Q station. It's a really cool place where small companies can work. And I'm excited that the state has approved financing for a new space center that we will be putting on MaxQ pretty soon here. We're finalizing those deals, but basically, the aerospace system, the groups that are here, we help get them to those experts that, like Melinda at the EDD or within the city of, or even down in Las Cruces, where they need to get to the incentives from the economic development partners. But then we help through the different incubators, like Arrowhead is down south. We help these companies get from their concept to their product to the sales, to introduce them to all these government customers, and to be able to take advantage of the great workforce that these companies can access, the resources they need. IP is unparalleled with having 3 federal laboratories in the state. So there's just lots of opportunity to get to the tech, to get to the workforce, and to get that business support all the way to the point of, getting to funding, whether it's a government contract or an investor. So, the different partners we have here is set up to, really help the companies come in, take advantage of these major assets that we have in the state. And I don't think there's a better place for this sort of new space economy to set up. This is the place to be. This is the nexus for that. And companies are coming in nationally and are wowed. Bryce, you brought up our State of the Space Industrial Base Conference, SSIB. This last year, this last conference a month ago brought in 146 different space companies that come in and they see the assets here, and they're reaching out after, how do we set up an office? How do we do this? So we're in
Do you guys have any, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is really great example, but do you have any examples of companies, both Melinda and Casey, that you can pin to that, from workforce development to the economic incentives to your Igniter program and Melinda as well? I'd be curious just to hear a quick example from each.
Just quickly, like, we helped Crossbow get set up and introduce them to the folks early on, a few years ago. And now they're doing well. We have, Blue Space, KMI just demonstrated their debris removal on the space station. They started out as one of our NewSpace Igniter programs, went all the way to our, we have different levels to the elite, and then now are getting, have been able to get different funding. They've set up in New Mexico. I believe they're working on some JTIP proposals to help with training. Those are, just off the top of my head, there's, our Igniter company has about a third of we work with about 25 companies a year, and about a third are New Mexico companies, but a third of those companies are talking to us about setting up, even when they just start with a little office. But they're looking, we have one company looking to get 10,000 square feet of manufacturing, Exos Aerospace, also doing their test launches at the Spaceport America. Auriga Space is looking at doing tests at Spaceport America, but getting locating up in the Albuquerque area. So Melinda's going to get a lot of appointments coming up pretty soon here.
This great, and I welcome that opportunity. You know, New Mexico has gained a lot of attention nationally, but also internationally, and so we have companies from all over the world who are looking at New Mexico for these kinds of solutions. And you know, I do work with industries across all industry sectors, and so you know, we've seen a lot recently in sustainable energy and alternative energy manufacturing, whether that's Maxion or Ebon that are going to manufacture the entire solar panels, or Arcosa Wind, which is they're going to manufacture wind towers. You know, we've worked with companies like MTEX, which is an antenna technology company that is coming to the state, or Star Scientific, which is hydrogen based. We recently just announced 7 companies from India that are coming to New Mexico. So you see this growth and this excitement of companies taking advantage of what New Mexico offers. And it's about having the resources and help in place to be successful. You know, the old joke of the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? You can connect Kevin in 7 degrees. In New Mexico, it's a 2 degree separation, right? Within 1 or 2 phone call, you can get to anyone at any level within the state of New Mexico in order to help you solve your problems and find solutions. And so that networking and that ability to be able to collaborate and work together is essential for businesses to come in and for them to be successful. No one has time to wait 6 or 7 or 8 months to get an answer or a solution to a problem. You need that today. And so only having to go through 1 or 2 people to get to the people that you really need to is key. It helps you be more successful quicker. And that's a real advantage that New Mexico can offer.
Melinda, I think though the big question is, can we get to Kevin Bacon? That would be great.
We probably can with Netflix, right? We probably
yeah, that's true. Dale, so with MaxQ, what are the next phases of development? And how can companies or site selectors get involved right now?
Well, right now they can just contact us with their needs, and we can kind of figure out how they best fit into the project, what their time frames might be. And again, back to Melinda's 2 degrees of separation, we can help connect them to who they need to meet with in the state, and who can help facilitate their decision to locate in the state. So our next phase is to fill up our current 22 acres. It's utility ready. We have designs for the additional 48 acres and could expedite development on that as well. And so, you know, really, we're just going to be out there pitching and doing as much catching as we can relative to the benefits of MaxQ. One thing that we also kind of pride ourselves on in our Albuquerque region is that we have probably one of the best workforce training community colleges in the United States in our Central New Mexico Community College. So anybody who is coming here that has a need for workforce training, human capital, that can be trained up quickly and concurrently while they're maybe occupying or getting a facility built. C&M is fantastic relative to its ability to respond to unique training needs of any kind of tenant that might be looking, or company looking to locate in New Mexico. So that's a real benefit and a real selling point as well. Speed to market, great workforce training assets, and, you know, just the ability to connect the dots and to provide connections to those relationships that help make companies successful faster. And that's what we have to offer at MaxQ, but also in the state of New Mexico.
Which perfect segue to the.
Bryce, if I could add that.
Sure.
We had just to pile on a little bit to Dale's speed to market. The 22 acres we have that's currently available is completely ready from a utility standpoint. Water, sewer, fiber, power, and gas are all there to each site right now, ready to go. So we really do have a shovel-ready site, and Our first tenant, Northrop Grumman, it was basically 11 months from the time we decided that they signed aboard to get them into their offices. We don't have to go through any bureaucracy with the city or state from a standpoint of any approvals. All of our traffic studies are done. All of our environmentals are done. We basically have to go through no approvals for zoning or neighborhood boards or anything like that. We literally can build tomorrow if the design of a building is complete. So that's kind of what we've been doing to get the project ready to move forward very quickly, as Dale mentioned.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of companies underestimate is that shovel-ready ability and infrastructure. You know, they come and expect that from any region, and to have all of that built in immediate. I mean, to have Northrop Grumman in 11 months, I mean, a massive pride that's insane to hear. So, from a startup perspective, from prime perspective, that is a heck of a number that I don't think you'll find anywhere else in the country. All right, well, let's wrap up here. I think one of the questions that I want to explore with everyone, and if everyone can throw a quick answer at this, and I'll just name you guys as we go. What's one next step that you would recommend to attendees interested in exploring opportunities at MaxQ or in New Mexico more broadly? Let's start with Melinda on that one.
It's as easy as a phone call or an email to start the conversation. Call my office. I'm happy to jump on a quick call and talk through what your project needs and interests might be, so that we can explore the opportunities, get you started on connecting with all the sites that are going to make sense for you, help you understand the incentives better that are in place, and we can start today. We can start as quick as you need to.
Sherman.
Whatever your technology verticals are, if you want to find out how closely they match existing technologies, either in the Space Force or the Air Force, give me a call, give Dale a call, and we'll find out in the next 24 hours.
I love it. Kate.
The system, there's many other groups that you're hearing from. Just reach out. We're ready to help you.
And Dale.
Well, just real quickly, our catcher on our team is Kevin Yearout, and his phone number is 505-288-0999, or you can reach him via email at kevinY@maxqnm.com. So, that's we're all
Do you want to put his home address also?
Yeah, his home address and what he does like for lunch and what his golf score is. We can include all those as well. So we'd love to see you here in New Mexico.
Perfect. And we'll have all that information in the show notes. Well, I appreciate everyone hopping on for this. This has been incredibly informative for everyone watching and listening. You have the top people, the participants, the ecosystem here at your disposal, and we're happy to help and jump in any way that we can. Thank you so much.